After the mass shootings in Newtown, Connecticut, and Aurora, Colorado, the public has become increasingly concerned with video games glorifying violence. Such games have been experimentally proven to increase aggressive behavior and decrease pro-social behavior like cooperation and empathy. A rating system for games exists, but it is ineffectual as many ignore its restrictions. However, if retailers and business groups voluntarily adopt a ban on games glorifying violence, they will dramatically reduce the aggressive and antisocial behavior these games induce. What proof exists violent games cause violent behavior? According to Craig Anderson and the American Psychological Association, there is a direct link between violent games and increased levels of aggression. Studies link violent games and aggressive behaviors, such as delinquency and fighting at school. Researchers at Iowa State University found violent games increase short-term aggression, and a study at Brock University found violent games increase aggressive behavior in school children, according to a New York Times article written 2 weeks ago. Perhaps most convincingly, a recent study at Ohio State University proves violent behavior can accumulate over time, according to a Seattle Times article published February 5th. The same study noted violent video games lead to antisocial behavior, such as a decrease in empathy and cooperation. Professor of psychology Brad Bushman, who led the study, concedes it is difficult to link such research to Newtown because it was premeditated that many violent crimes are not. Linking higher levels of aggression to heat-of-the-moment violence is not difficult at all. Dr. Anderson also notes that violent video game effect sizes are larger than the effect of secondhand smoke on lung cancer. Most states have instituted a ban on public smoking, so why is there no ban on violent games? The fallacy in our current rating system is twofold. The age limit is easy to skirt around with anyone who can buy the M-rated game for an underage gamer, assuming the retailer even enforces the ban. And it doesn't address the issue of adult gamers being exposed to and participating in copious amounts of violence. Even fantasy and cartoon violence can trigger aggression in adults, says Dr. Anderson. Violent games can instill aggressive behavior from a young age, but one does not cease being susceptible to triggers of aggression once one turns 18. According to a BBC article from this July, even gaming and technology magazines were criticizing the level of violence as shocking. Clearly, a relationship exists between violent games and violent actions, but what constitutes glorifying violence? For our purposes, the ban would be limited to a first-person game where the player participates in excessive, disturbing, and undue amounts of detailed and graphic violence. These games allow the player a high level of interactivity with violence. Does this mean Mario Party or Legend of Zelda would be banned? No. What games would be banned? Games like Dead Space Extraction, which features, quote, blood spurting out of victims' bodies, human carcasses littering the floor, blood-stained walls and floors, and copious screams of torture, end quote. Call of Duty 2, Modern Warfare 2, where gamers can play as terrorists, or Grand Theft Auto, which has been known to feature copious amounts of sex and violence towards women. So why would any retailer not sell these games? Well, for businesses, it's all about looking good. And if a corporation is seen making a stand against gun violence, it's more than likely people will shop there in support and actually increase sales. If business organizations, like the Better Business Bureau or the U.S. Retail Industry Board enact a ban, rather than the government, it's a business decision, not a so-called infringement of civil liberties. And the government spends exactly $0 enforcing this ban. Furthermore, this could push the gaming industry in a less violent direction. People will buy what's available. Rather than gaming companies going out of business, they can just make and sell less violent games, like the incredibly successful Pac-Man. If violent games lead to higher levels of aggression, then fewer violent games means less violent behavior. Video games offer an unparalleled level of interaction with violence, and the way violence has been portrayed in the media has become more and more graphic. If retailers and business organizations enact a voluntary ban on overly graphic first-person video games, they stand in solidarity against media violence and its incredibly negative effects.